today's webinar. Just a couple housekeeping items. If you're listening on the phone or on the computer, we do have everyone by default is muted. And so if you have a question, there are a couple options. You can either type it into the question log box, which will be on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll get to it either during the presentation or we'll have a question and answer session at the end. Additionally, if you want to ask your question over the phone or if you have a microphone on your computer, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you and you can ask your question. And if we don't get to your question right away, don't worry, we will get to it at the end. So my name is Katie Timmer. I'm an AmeriCorps Vista serving here with Mentor Michigan. And today's webinar is the fourth in the series of the Building a Successful Mentoring Program. And this one is focusing on mentor support, recognition and retention, as well as match closure. And facilitating today's webinar is Michelle Susi, who is a mentoring consultant.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think some of you probably got some of the snow. I'm over on the southeast side of Michigan and was very surprised at what I saw this morning. But thank you guys all for joining us this afternoon for this, and I hope you get a lot out of this session. As Katie shared, be sure to type your questions as you get them, and we'll be sure to get to them today. Some of them she may interrupt me as we go, and we'll kind of touch base on them in the middle of the session. Others we'll definitely get to by the end of the session. So again, use that question box off to the side, and feel free to type your questions in there, and we'll make sure we cover them all. Again, my name is Michelle Susi. I'm a mentoring training consultant. I worked in the mentoring programs for over 14 years in a variety of different roles and functions over that time. I've also worked in small agencies, small mentoring programs with a couple, one or two staff. Actually, I first started out and there were no full-time staff in the program that I was in, so we were barely, I would say, one full-time staff if you added us all together. So I've worked in a really low, low budget place with little staff to get all these efforts done, so I can feel that for those of you who might be kind of doing this on your own. I've also worked in large agencies as well and medium agencies, so I have experience in a variety of different ways. I've worked in very rural areas and some urban areas. I've done school-based, community-based, mentoring children and incarcerated parents programs, so I have a lot of depth of experience, and I hope that I can share as much of that with all of you today, and that's why we really encourage you to ask questions, because we'd be happy to explore all of those with you at some point during today's webinar. So there are 11 quality program standards, and today we're going to review standards 7 and 8 of the quality program standards for youth mentoring, which will address mentor support, recognition and retention, as well as match closure. We'll begin with a brief history of the quality program standards for youth mentoring. These standards were developed by the Mentor Michigan Providers Council. And the Provider Council provides expertise and ideas to Mentor Michigan as it implements activities. The council consists of up to 20 individuals that represent diverse mentoring programs, organizations, and collaborations from around the state, such as community-based programs, school-based programs, faith-based programs, higher education institutions, local mentoring collaboratives, volunteer centers, and national service programs. And the standards are not meant to certify or accredit mentoring programs. They're meant to be used as a planning and assessment framework that raises the bar for mentoring programs. Even the Providers Council members that wrote these standards do not necessarily meet all of the standards, but they believe they're elements that every program should be striving for. All of the standards are based on research, evidence-based practices, and the national elements of effective practice. Then in addition to the standards, the Providers Council developed a self-assessment checklist for programs. The purpose of the checklist is to provide youth mentoring programs with a tool for self-assessment. As programs work to continually improve their operations and services to the communities they serve, this checklist can provide benchmarks for progress. And programs should use this instrument to determine areas of a potential improvement needed, and also to identify those components of quality youth mentoring that are strengths of the organization. The quality program standards, as well as the self-assessment checklist, are available for download on the Mentor Michigan website at mentormichigan.org. I also want to share with you one other element. I've been at Big Brothers Big Sisters agencies, so those of you who might be, that might be your home base, I can relate to kind of the inner workings of your programs, and sometimes the language that's used in the standards might be a little different than what you're familiar with on an ongoing basis. So we're going to start with Standards 7 and 8 of the Quality Program Standards for Youth Mentoring. And we'll examine how to support and provide recognition to mentors and other volunteers for their hard work, and we'll discuss the importance of using a formal match closure procedure. We'll identify a variety of methods of providing ongoing mentor support, training, supervision, and recognition, as well as explore the key aspects of a match closure procedure. By the end of our discussion, you should be able to identify a variety of methods of providing ongoing mentor support, training, and supervision, begin to develop volunteer recognition plans for your mentoring programs or improve upon existing programs, and summarize the key aspects of match closure and explain its importance. So Standard 7 deals with mentor support, recognition, and retention. Mentor support and recognition are key elements in mentor retention efforts. So Standard 7 states, the program supports mentoring relationships, recognized volunteers, and has strategies for volunteer retention. These could include a kickoff event held on a regular basis, ongoing recognition, appreciation, activities, and celebration, ongoing peer support groups for volunteers, participants, and others, ongoing training and development, reflection on relevant issues, relevant and timely information dissemination, making mentors aware of volunteer opportunities for mentors and mentees, such as Make a Difference Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service, and etc. Providing networking opportunities for mentors with appropriate resource organizations, newsletters, annual reports, and other correspondence with mentors, mentees, supporters, and funders to share program accomplishments, structured activities or processes to ease anxieties that may occur at match meetings, and lastly, social gatherings for matches. So although relationship failure rates can vary greatly across programs, general estimates show that only approximately half of the mentoring relationships established through formal programs last beyond a few months. Findings from recent mentoring research show that youth in matches that end prematurely actually have worse outcomes in several key areas than youth who are never mentored. And matches that last longer than 12 months are significantly more likely to achieve positive outcomes. Thus, in terms of youth outcomes, mentor retention is critical for mentoring programs. Programs must be able to not only match mentors and mentees, but also be able to sustain those matches. Programs play such a significant role in facilitating the development of mentoring relationships and mentor retention. So now we want to take a poll. And Katie will put that up in just a second here. Little interactiveness here. So how often do you provide training to mentors in your program? Prior to the match, during the initial phase, offer ongoing training opportunities, or you require mentors to attend periodic training opportunities. And you can choose more than one on this poll. Is that right, Katie?
Yep. So it looks like we have 75% of the participants today that have already voted, and I will share the results.
Okay, so 78% are prior to the match, 44% during the initial phase of the match, 78% ongoing, and 44% you require mentors to attend periodic training opportunities. You'd be surprised to hear what research has found about our mentors' perception of training. Many mentors have stated that they have not received training in any of our programs, even though there's this overwhelming end of ours where we know we've infused training and orientation and possibly even provided it ongoing. It's really the perception of the volunteers that we need to meet. I want to share with you a story of a match that I was working with, and about 8 months into the match, the mentor told me she had not received any training. Let me share a little bit about our program to give you some background. I know we provided information to this training and information to this mentor at each stage that she came through the process. And sometimes it was often really specific to her needs and requests. So we provided some orientation during the inquiry and the interview, and then we provided her with training, specific training on youth safety during the interview. We gave her volunteer orientation manual to take home after the interview. It was like in a nice little folder. And then during the first and second month, I personally had spoken with her by phone to do her match support and sent follow-up handouts on the same topics by email. And all this, if you looked in her match support notes, it was all documented. All of these pieces had been done. The checklist had been marked off, that these items had been provided to her, and the additional items had been noted because they were specific to her needs. But we missed a critical element, or I would say I missed a critical element. I didn't state that they were training items specifically. It was just a part of what our program did and how we delivered it, and we didn't necessarily say, pause in that and say, now we are doing training. And we didn't reinforce that we provided her training, and then most importantly, we didn't specifically check her perception of training. So, we even looked back to one of the interview questions that we typically had asked was she wanting to have training one-on-one or in a group? And again, she was willing to have it either way. She was open to having training either of those. And again, we perceived that we had provided training for her, but as a mentor, she did not perceive that she had been provided training. So last thing you want to do is get into a conflict discussion with a mentor about training, but we gradually kind of came around with that and started to call it training with her and also with other mentors so that they could understand, we are giving you components of training and it's coming to you in what I would call nuggets versus a traditional classroom setting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further into the webinar. So let's talk about ongoing training. It's impossible to cover everything that mentors and mentees should know in your initial orientation and training sessions. They would be days and days long if we did that. Even if you could get through everything, it would be unrealistic to expect that your mentors and mentees absorb it all at once. Ongoing training after the match is essential to ensure strong, lasting relationships. By providing ongoing training to mentors and mentees, your programs can introduce new skills and material that will help mentors and mentees maintain and improve their relationship. And remember, if we have long matches, our youth are growing up in these relationships. So they might get matched when they're 10 and be in one youth development stage, and if the match lasts long, they might become 12 and start that early adolescent stages. And so mentors are going to need different skills and materials to help them through those. You can reinforce important concepts. Engage experts who can provide in-depth information on topics relevant to youth population being served. There's some great folks out there in other organizations that can do healthy lifestyles with your matches and also engage in an activity while they're doing it, how to eat healthy, how to kind of exercise or be physical, which is great. So don't overlook that opportunity or that resource in your communities. Provide an opportunity for mentors to share their experiences and learn from and support each other. And this is really important, that they network with each other and feel like they're not the only ones out there doing the work that they're doing. So here's some possible ongoing training topics. One way to keep mentors connected is to hold workshops or other training events that show them how to enhance their mentoring experience. But before designing such events, survey your mentors and ask what types of additional training they think would be helpful. So some possible topics include communication and conflict resolution, helping youth build self-esteem, problem-solving skills, goal setting, Boundary setting. This is really important when you're talking about your mentor and mentee and how the mentor might be setting boundaries with the mentee, maybe when they're out in public and eating at a restaurant, and what kind of boundaries they might be setting around those interactions. Boundaries between the things that parents, depending on what your program entails, but what parents might be asking mentors to do for the mentee or for the rest of the family when the focus is supposed to be one-on-one, like asking the mentor to pick up the other children after school or at the skating rink or whatever, local club, after school activities there might be, and bringing them all home. How to handle conflicts with parents and guardians, diversity and cultural sensitivity, low to no cost activities to do with your mentee, and then specific needs for youth, like, as we spoke earlier, the youth is becoming an adolescent, or ADHD, or loss of a parent, incarcerated parent, or even college, what life after high school might look like, resume writing, college applications, kind of exploring those opportunities together. In addition, issues that surface while monitoring can help identify the content that should be included in ongoing training sessions. Something to consider is how you train your mentors, the ways you deliver your topics. And note that everyone learns differently, as you may find yourself. So varying how you provide these opportunities will help your mentors retain the most information. Thinking of these ways will also provide flexibility for your mentors to receive that important training that you feel they really need to be successful. So you could look at one-on-one, in person or by phone. It's a great way to cover specific topics relative to the match. You can ask the mentor specific questions and build on their experience and speak specifically to their match when you're doing that type of training. Classroom, many learn best in groups, and there's the opportunity for networking and sharing and hearing other questions in this kind of style. And it's best to keep this lively and be sure to evaluate your attendance for this as you go forward. Scenario-based training. You can infuse your topics into situational stories. Maybe you have some match stories already that cover certain topics. You just, be sure that you use confidentiality when you share those, and have mentors share how they might work through that situation. That can be done one-on-one or in groups as well, and can be very helpful. Binders and handouts. This is great for the learner who retains by reading, and some mentors really like to have that reference manual that they put on their bookshelf. Others, it sits there, it gets dust, and others, if you ask them where it is, they don't know. Emailed handouts. It's quick, it's easy, a great way to follow up from a match monitoring or support conversation. Online modules. That's something new to kind of consider when you're thinking about training your mentors. And it's a great opportunity because they're self-paced. They're great for a younger generation of mentors who love to learn online and are really comfortable with that. It takes a little bit of investment to set up, but it can really pay off for you. And it can also offer some flexible time for mentors to complete training that you really, really want them to have for your program. Webinars, you're all on one today. It's really cool because it's, again, an online module learning opportunity. But this has an added value of, at times, you can go ahead and open up the phone lines, and there's a value of networking by phone with other individuals that are maybe going through the same experience or need the same topic. And then podcasts. Those are similar to the benefits that you're going to get for online and webinars, but it provides the training by audio, and some of our mentors learn better that way. And then, again, it offers flexibility to learn anytime and anywhere. And you can also make any of these into nugget-type trainings, especially the podcasts and the online modules. You can turn them into 15, 20-minute nuggets for folks. When we talk about kind of classroom training, here's some thoughts or ideas in order to kind of boost your meetings and your trainings. Think about offering refreshments or a simple dinner to entice people to come straight from work to the meeting. You can ask a local deli or restaurant to provide food, or have a themed potluck where your program provides the main dish and you ask volunteers or parents to bring the side dishes or desserts. You can consider a brown bag lunch for school-based mentors or worksite mentors. a great story about a school that was in a very rural area for us, and most of our mentors were retired teachers, retired factory workers, mostly female, and grandmothers. And we brought them in for a brown bag lunch on one of the days where most of the mentors did not meet at lunchtime with their mentees, and sat down with them. We actually provided desserts and beverages, and they just brought, some sandwiches or whatever they felt comfortable bringing. And we just started off with some open-ended questions, and the conversations just started flying. They took off. The mentors started talking to each other about mentees that they had similar situations with. They started problem solving with each other. They started talking about what one person was successful with their mentee. And we saw a huge benefit from that, because the next time we had a brown bag lunch, they barely let us get any questions out, and they just started sharing right away. I think that probably was going on in between that, as they saw each other in the school and might stop and talk and connect with each other and talk about experiences they were having, which was great. They then again felt like it wasn't just them out there trying to do this work or this effort, but they had other individuals to kind of rely on and get some great ideas from. The other thing to do is offer the mentors an opportunity to receive a gift. For example, if they attend 4 out of 5 training sessions throughout the year, their name's entered into a drawing for a dinner for 2 or theater tickets or whatever else you might be able to, T-shirts, those kind of things. Give mentors a sense of ownership over their meetings by rotating their responsibilities. For example, begin each meeting with a quote or reflection and assign one mentor to bring in the quote for the meeting. Or ask different mentors to call the others the day before the meeting to remind them to come. And you can also assign each mentor to bring in a resource to share. When selecting dates for future meetings, be sure to ask your mentors for their input. You really want your attendance to be there. So discuss potential dates in a meeting where most mentors are present so they can provide feedback about their availability. And again, the most important element to any training you're providing is ensure that mentors' perception of the training is met. So research does show that this is very important to the strength of the match. And again, stronger matches will last longer. And mentors feel much more confident in the work that they're doing for your program. So on to mentor recognition. Although recognition is an important part of any volunteer or youth program, it's especially important for mentoring programs because most mentoring programs have long-term goals and their results are often hard to see right away. By celebrating and recognizing each accomplishment and milestone along the way, youth mentoring programs can maintain morale and express their gratitude to everyone involved. Programs can also gain extra benefits from their public mentor recognition efforts by using them to recruit new mentors. Many people serve as mentors for reasons other than recognition, but that doesn't mean they won't appreciate the recognition. Regularly acknowledging and thanking your mentors is an important part of retention, especially when your expressions of appreciation complement the ongoing attention you give to making mentors feel like they're a vital part of your work. They can include a spectrum of approaches, a simple thank you each time the mentor makes a meeting, personalized notes of encouragement, a special treat at a mentor meeting, a newsletter highlighting the match, or a formal recognition ceremony. Take time to review how you recognize volunteers, how you can enhance what you're already doing, and how ongoing volunteer recognition can become part of your agency's culture. While mentor recognition is an ongoing process, you can center larger activities and events around certain times. January is Michigan and National Mentoring Month, which provides a perfect opportunity to thank mentors, raise awareness, and recruit mentors, which we've already passed this year. And you can help mentees express their gratitude on Thank Your Mentor Day during the month. This year, it was on January 25th. So make sure your organization marks their calendars for next year and thinks of ideas for those now. And also, last week was National Volunteer Week, but you can mark your calendars because for 2012, National Volunteer Week is April 15th to the 21st. Another great opportunity to thank volunteers. So we're going to take a little different kind of a poll. We want to know how you recognize and thank your mentors. And we'd like for you to go ahead and type your response into the question log. And Katie's going to help me out with this poll as well. So while everyone's typing, some things to think about is, and I'll share a little bit of this as we go through, is through the interview and process and match support, the programs I worked with, we always kind of paid attention or noted mentors that like the public recognition. And I think that's what we most of the time think of, but we have to know that each volunteer likes recognition in a little bit different way. So those that like the public recognition, we made sure to call on them to do radio ads, the newspaper ads, or the TV ads. And we put their photo in the newsletter, and we considered them for other volunteer awards that were in our community, because those are the type of volunteers that like the plaques and the certificates.
So far we've got Match of the Month and also Mentor of the Month, gift cards, email thank you e-cards, phone call thank yous. Someone else said in every communication, whether by phone, email, or face, they simply thank them. Let's look. The kids fill out National Mentoring Month thank you cards. They have an appreciation dinner in January or other networking events with the bigs, highlighting the matches in the newsletters, ads, and volunteer awards, volunteer appreciation events, face-to-face and group activities, just flat out thanking them in general anytime you see them.
The person who put volunteer appreciation events, could you share a little bit more of what are some of those events that you've done?
It was Priscilla. Some other ones I'm seeing on here, the Bowl for Kids' Sake, which a couple bigs people mentioned that.
I'll share a couple more things that programs I've worked with, what we've done, as well as, as I shared, we're still picking out specific mentors that might like to be recognized in certain ways. We noted mentors that seem to like being connected. They're the ones that come in and like to name drop who they know in your program or who they know in the community. And I think some of you can think of mentors who are like that. They really like being connected, and it's who you know type of mentors. So with those, we've asked specific board members or other celebrity-type mentors to call and thank them, or to even just write them a thank you note, and that's made them feel really recognized in the way that they like to be. Also, sometimes you come across mentors who like to brag about their match. We've asked them to become part of a speakers bureau and asked them to come in and speak about their particular match, but then also to come into the board and into the staff and share what's going on great with their match, and they really tend to love that. We also send them out to recruit mentors or educate other groups about mentoring. And the other thing that you can think about is having someone from senior management or someone else in your organization just call them and thank them, and let them know, just to be prepared to listen to that mentor kind of brag about their match, because that's what they'll want to do. Then the other thing is, mentors who like a personal touch, and I heard some people talk about that, where they might write a personal thank you to them. The other nice thing to do is to work with their mentee and possibly the parent if they're involved in your program, and have the mentee draw a picture and write a thank you note, and ask them to do it just because. That really makes a big difference for some of your mentors. So are there a few more, Katie, that have popped up?
Yep, for the volunteer recognition event, she said, our agency is right next to a movie theater, so the staff picked a movie and the event for free for both bigs and littles, so free popcorns and drinks, and the agency did pay for the event, and they had printed out certificates and put them in frames and handed them out before the movie began.
Awesome. Great ideas.
Just one more that I thought was a cool activity. At their yearly mentoring open house, they actually gave a mentoring survival kit as a gift to each mentor. I'm not sure what kind of things were in there, but that sounds cool.
Great. There's a lot of different ways to recognize your mentors, and one thing to remember is one size does not fit all when it comes to mentor recognition. And to be honest with you, some mentors really don't know what type of recognition they prefer. So I've asked a lot of them when they've started off, you know, how would you know you're successful in your relationship? How do you prefer to be appreciated for the work you're doing? And a lot of mentors just really don't know. So you have to kind of just try it out on them all. And kind of, you know, it's important when you're doing some of this is to follow up or circle around with them and find out which things made them feel most successful or most appreciated, so you can continue to push efforts that direction for that particular mentor. Great. Programs must be able to not only match mentors and mentees, but also be able to sustain those matches. And programs play a significant role in facilitating the development of mentoring relationships and mentor retention. Program factors, including ongoing training, support, and recognition, are essential to mentor retention and match duration, which leads to longer and stronger matches that yield more positive youth outcomes. That's what we're all about here. So recognition and training are often the first to be cut in the budget when times are tough. But it's really important to advocate that these are elements of mentor and match retention, and they really are in themselves a cost savings. So when times are tough, just be creative. Keep it in your program in ways that work. Be sure to evaluate the attendance for your in-person functions. Are you really getting out of those functions what you're putting into them? And be flexible. Just try other ideas and keep it simple. So now on to Standard 8, which addresses match closure. Now, we just talked about all the fun stuff of the program and what we do by thanking mentors, training them to do the work that they're doing, and recognizing them. And here we're going to talk about match closure. It's a necessity. A planned, intentional process for bringing closure to mentoring matches helps bring the formal mentoring relationship to a positive conclusion. The standard states that the program has a process for effective match closure, which documents exit interviews, including efforts and outcomes between the mentee and staff, mentor and staff, mentor and mentee, parent and guardian notification and communication when applicable, a clearly stated written policy describing appropriate future contacts between mentor and mentee, assistance in defining process for achieving personal goals for mentees, and a process for re-engaging the volunteer as a mentor or in other areas of the program. The program should discuss the importance of ending the relationship appropriately from the start. And this may seem odd at the beginning of a match to have this discussion, but mentors and mentees may need to know up front their options for ending a relationship so they don't just abandon the relationship when they become uncertain about how to handle a difficult situation or have decided they no longer want to continue. It's very important to discuss this with younger mentors, your college and your high school mentors. They often are the ones that just disappear and don't understand the true impact on their mentee when this happens. Matches that must end due to external forces or those that are simply not working well may really benefit from the assistance with appropriate termination. Even those programs that hope to encourage relationships that continue indefinitely should have clear guidelines and expectations for ending relationships. So why do matches end prematurely? All mentoring relationships will eventually come to an end. Many times, closure is a celebration for matches that have successfully completed the program or reached the maximum age limit. Oftentimes, these matches will continue the relationship outside the mentoring program with the parent's permission. Unfortunately, matches sometimes close prematurely, and this can put a great strain on mentors and youth. Matches often end prematurely because of this list of elements. Issues related to the program or process, including the match not being a good fit, insufficient monitoring, or loss of funding. Issues related to life circumstances such as relocating, schedule conflicts, or other situations which the mentor cannot see the mentee. Program-initiated closure. This could be the result of a mentor-mentee parent violating any of your program rules or boundary issues. Mentor-initiated closure due to not feeling valued, engaged, encountering uncomfortable situations, unmet expectations, among a whole host of other things. Youth-initiated closure. This could be due to older teens feeling they've outgrown having a mentor, their unmet expectations, or not feeling compatible with their mentor. A parent-initiated closure due to issues that arise between the mentor and the parent. Communication problems, unmet needs, or expectations, boundary issues, are no longer seeing the need for a mentor. Not all match closures can be prevented. Some circumstances require that the match must end. However, there are some issues that can be resolved through the program staff intervening before the issue escalates, and some preemptive steps you can take to help prevent match closure. Prior to the match, pre-match training. Ensuring mentors, mentees, and parent and guardians have realistic expectations. Systematic and detailed matching criteria. Throughout the duration of the match, consistent match monitoring. Periodic in-person meetings with the match. Maybe they're scheduled or you see them at activities. Quickly deal with issues and challenges that arise. I can't say that enough. Quickly deal with issues or challenges that arise. This is so critical to preventing match closure. And be proactive with anything a match participant perceives as a concern or a challenge, not necessarily what you as a staff member might see, though you will identify those as well. But be sure that if they perceive there's an issue or a challenge that you are addressing that. Provide ongoing training for mentors. Again, make sure you're informing them that you're providing them additional training so they do feel that support. Facilitate conflict management and resolution. And we've talked a lot about recognition. That's important too. You might want to consider, we have an upcoming webinar that talks specifically about match closure analysis. And this is a webinar that you can learn how you can approach this analysis, which closed matches to review, and what areas of your program to review. Oftentimes there are many preventable closures that have happened in your program, and by doing a match analysis you can kind of strengthen your program and recognize those pieces and kind of tweak your program where you need to, because this way you can preserve one of your most valuable resources, which are your mentors. Those upcoming webinars are Tuesday, May 17th at 2 o'clock and Thursday, May 19th at 9 a.m. Those are both posted on the Mentor Michigan website for you to register for. So with the end of other relationships, mentors and mentees are likely to have mixed feelings. If the relationship ends prematurely on a negative note, one or both may feel angry, rejected, depressed, or guilty. For young people with low self-esteem, the end of a mentoring relationship may reinforce attitudes of worthlessness and hopelessness. Many of the youth we mentor have not experienced healthy ends to relationships, and it's our role to assist with this. It may not be possible to have a formal closure process for both the mentor and mentee because of circumstances surrounding their departure from the mentoring program. In these instances, it's important to reach out to each participant to provide closure. Think of the ending of a mentoring relationship as a process rather than a singular event. Establish a process for your program and include it in your policies and procedures manual. Be sure to follow these procedures every time a relationship ends, no matter what the reason. Programs need to establish closure processes for both planned and unplanned terminations, as they involve different steps. However, every closure process should include some key things. Identifies natural emotions such as grief, denial, and resentment. Provides options for saying goodbye in a healthy, respectful, and affirming way. And addresses appropriate methods through which mentors and mentees can stay in contact. Even if a formal match comes to a planned end, such as a mentee is aging out of your program or the match has reached the term predetermined by the program structure, like in school-based programs, there should be processes in place to help the mentor and mentee reach closure. The program can support positive match closure in several ways. Celebrate! List closures as one of the match goals and celebrate when the goal is reached. Provide mentors with toolkits and closure ideas. Preparation before closure even happens. Let everyone know what to expect. Facilitate reflection. Provide an opportunity for all parties to evaluate the program, match, and progress made. Recognition through awards, certificates, and newsletter stories. Share their stories with others. Provide opportunities for continued program involvement. Help the match determine if there will be any post-match communication. I have a couple of stories to share with you on some positive match closures, and I thought the mentors just handled these match closures the best that they could. In the first one, the mentor was actually moving out of the area, and it was really neat in the session as we sat down in person and I facilitated the match closure. The neatest thing I heard the mentor say to his mentee is, "I'm not saying goodbye, I'm saying I'll see you later." Really awesome to hear that out of the mentor. In another match that I actually had to facilitate the closure for, the mentor was going off to college. This was a high school student who had been matched with her mentee for about 3 years. She came to the match closure meeting and had a little book with her, and at the end of the meeting said to her mentee, "This is a scrapbook of thoughts, memories, and some of the pictures that we've taken during the time we've been matched, and I just want you to remember me always." So, however, in many cases, matches end prematurely on a negative note. These endings require even more support from program staff, including being available and returning calls and emails promptly, getting all the information from relevant parties, facilitate a closure meeting for all parties, encouraging honest and clear communication. If the mentor is closing the match because of a move, a job loss, or similar reason, explain the situation to the youth and have conversations about life changes. Have another mentor in line for the mentee if it's possible and appropriate. Be open to answer questions. Thank them for being part of the program. Ask them if they'd like to try again and be rematched. And offer an opportunity to get involved in the program in a different role. I have a couple stories, again, about a couple match closures that were unplanned. I had a mentor call me one morning and let me know that she got a call that previous evening from her mentee. And her mentee was actually calling her from another state and let her know while they were on the road that her mother decided in the middle of the evening to just pick up, pack up, and move. There's not much you could do in that situation but talk with the mentor, get her through closure. I attempted to reach the family by the number that the mentor had for the mentee and was unsuccessful. However, the mentor, knowing that she had an option to be matched with another little, helped her work through that, remember her previous little, a mentee, and get to another match successfully. But that was very unplanned, very, very unplanned. I have another match relationship that closed, and though we have had a lot of discussions through some trials and tribulations of this match, the parent understood that we were having an in-person match closure. We had spoken with the mentee that we were going to have an in-person match closure and explained what that meant. And we also asked the parent to have additional conversations with her son that the match was going to be closing. And when the mentor showed up at the office and facilitated the match closure conversations and felt that as we were leaving the office, everyone was in a good place. Everyone had felt that the relationship was ending on a positive note, having discussed the outcomes, the opportunities, the things that had been accomplished in this particular match. When we got out to the parking lot, the male mentee had run out to the mentor's truck and was sitting in his truck bed. Now, you know this is a very rural area. He would not get out of the truck bed of his mentor's truck. So we had to talk through that scenario out in the parking lot while he was sitting in the truck, refusing to get out. So though he had said in the office, all's well, and everyone had had preliminary discussions with him and all's well, he finally processed it and really did not want his mentor to end the match. So unfortunately, it took a little while to make all that come together, and some words between mom and son were had, but we eventually resolved that scenario and debriefed with everyone afterwards, after the event the next day. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. So once a match between a mentor and a young person is made, the work is only just begun. Throughout the duration of the match, mentoring programs need to provide consistent staff support, those ongoing training opportunities, and be sure to recognize mentors for their hard work. These are all critical ingredients to a successful, long-lasting match, which promotes the most positive youth outcomes. And in the event that a match must close, whether the termination is planned or unplanned, programs need to have a process to help the mentor and mentee reach closure, to manage some of the emotional damage that can arise as a result of a premature termination. Simply abandoning the relationship can do much more harm to both the mentor and mentee, leaving them in a worse situation than if no mentoring had occurred. It's important for staff to provide support and reach out to program participants to help them reach closure, no matter how that match may end. So now we'll discuss some valuable resources and next steps for you. The National Mentoring Center at Education Northwest has several valuable resources on the website, particularly under the Mentor-Mentee Training and Relationship Support Resources section. The National Mentoring Center general website is educationnorthwest.org/NMC. Hey, Katie, I don't think I'm reading that right off of here. It's educationnorthwest.org. There you go. To access the Mentor-Mentee Training and Relationship Support Resources page directly, use the website listed above. And resources related to this topic include ongoing training for mentors, 12 interactive sessions for U.S. Department of Education mentoring program, enriching the mentoring experience through ongoing mentee training, which is a fact sheet, building lasting matches through quality training and support, a case study of the Powerhouse Foster Youth Mentoring Program, and more than saying thank you, comprehensive approaches to mentor retention, again, another fact sheet for you. And as many of you know, Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, developed the elements of effective practice and a toolkit, which are available for free download from their website at mentoring.org. Included in the toolkit resources such as mentor and mentee feedback forms, recognition ideas, and planning forms, termination rituals, closure interview forms, and much, much more. In addition, the Research in Action series developed by Mentor translates the latest mentoring research into tangible strategies for mentoring practitioners. Issues specific to this topic are Issue 4, Fostering Close and Effective Relationships, and Issue 5, Why Youth Mentoring Relationships End. The entire series is available for free download from Mentor's website as well, and Mentor Michigan is also offering regular webinars on this series. So now what? If you haven't done so already, please download the Quality Program Standards for Youth Mentoring and the Program Self-Assessment Checklist. Use the checklist to help determine areas of potential improvement needed, and also to identify those components of quality youth mentoring that are strengths of the organization. They can be downloaded for free on our website at mentormichigan.org. Look at your own program policies and procedures. Is match retention an issue in your program? Do you provide ongoing support, training, and recognition as a part of a larger mentor retention plan? In the event that a match must close, do you have a closure process for planned, unplanned, or negative terminations? Just think about my truck bed story. You'll want to write your procedure to fit that. Please visit the Mentor Michigan website at mentormichigan.org to explore all the handouts, resources, and related information available. There's a ton of resources available on the website and several resources related directly to the information presented in this webinar. In addition, take a look at the Training and Technical Assistance page for a complete listing of the webinars that Mentor Michigan is offering to the mentor field. And again, a nice shameless plug for Match Closure Analysis, which is a new webinar that you can learn how your program can approach this part of analysis. And we'll discuss which closed matches to review and what areas of your program to review and whether to decide to do closure analysis so that you can have longer and stronger matches. And it's an investment of time, but it will also give you critical information to tweak your program and have prevent some of those match closures. So at this time, we'd like to open up for questions or comments, and Katie will remind you how you might be able to put those questions out.
So if you have any questions or comments, you can either raise your hand and we can unmute you, or you can type it right into the question log box and we will get your question answered.
We have a quiet group. So does anyone feel like their program they're working in does enough around the area of mentor recognition? Or do you think you could be doing more?
I don't see anything coming in, Michelle. Oh, I lied. Someone mentioned there's always more you could be doing to recognize awesome mentors. Someone else mentioned, I have mentors who want to close their match because they feel like the littles don't need them anymore because the littles are busy with friends and high school events after school. What should you tell them?
Let's see, what should you tell them? I think it's important to continue to share with them go back to the reasons why you put them in a match relationship together. And as long as the youth are engaging in healthy activities outside the mentoring relationship, those are positive outcomes. I see a lot of matches go through that as they might be matched with a mentee during a time period where they transition from maybe elementary school to junior high or middle school to high school. A lot of times mentors will come back with those kind of reactions because their mentee is engaging in more of the opportunities that are available for them. So another thing to talk about with them too is what are some different, maybe they need to change the activities that they used to engage in and participate with each other or engage with each other a little bit differently. I have some matches where the mentor has actually been supportive and maybe gone to one of the activities that the youth is newly engaged in, such as go to watch one of their sporting events and then offer to give the youth a ride home from that event, or maybe following the event they might spend a half hour together just chatting and connecting on that level. I've also seen matches where, and this really depends on your program design, we've kind of given them a little bit of a break, maybe a week or two off, or maybe started to stagger their meetings so that they're meeting longer when they get together, but not as frequently. So maybe they're meeting, they used to meet for an hour a week, And again, this is all based on what your program design might be. In order to keep the match together, we've asked that they meet every other week for a 2-hour block and do something together in that fashion. But it takes a lot from you to pull out, and report back to that mentor the information that you can about how they are making a difference for that mentee still. Engage them maybe in getting into new conversations with the mentee as well. Maybe start shifting the gears and talking about what are the boyfriend-girlfriend relationships looking like, and getting new conversations stirred up between the pair. But it takes a lot from you as a support person to pull that out, put that on the table, show the mentor the impact that they've had, the impact they can continue to have, and that kids go through phases. They go through changes. And matches are in cycles. They go up and down like a roller coaster. And at some points there's a lot of need and a lot of impact the mentor can see, and other times it's a little more subtle. So, and consistency is so important to continue through there too, to let that mentor know that mentee is doing well, because they know they have you in their life. They know they have you as a support person. So when times get a little rocky, they know they have you to rely on and to go to. So do your best to show all that, highlight all that, spotlight, shine the spotlight on all that, so that your mentor is feeling the love from your program and how important they are into that relationship. But that's very common for some of our mentors to go through that phase in relationships.
That looks like all for questions. So thank you everyone for being on our webinar today. I hope you enjoyed it and you learned a lot.
Thank you everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.